Hello, the Talus. Oh, need to fix some things. Yobo. Welcome to this display capture. Hi, Grillin. Hi, Spritzy. Hello and welcome. I've lost control. Yuck, yuck. Rugrats meme here. Yeah, don't forget your booster packs. Spritzy got a booster pack. Knows what's gonna happen. Get anything. Some of them are even good. Saving that for later. Okay, doesn't tell me what it is. Have fun with that. Woo. 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 Alright. Oh, how's everyone doing? We're having a fun day. Hey, Lizzie. Keep this over. Both the inevitable comment that. The viewer attack redemption. I mean, I think it's any redeem is an alert. That's just how it is, as far as I know. But I could keep looking. Keep meaning to go in there and tweak prices and stuff. I need a lot of things. Kind of crashing out. Cloud is up to business. Cloud is up to business. He's probably taking aim, taking aim, taking aim. I want to hold still for that one. That's the problem. Oh, okay. I've set everything up. Shall we? Hop on over. Devious motions are in motion. I mean, that is what motions tend to. Oh, whatever. Alien. Me speak good, me word yes, me go yes, 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 word talk. We do bingo? We haven't done bingo in a minute. I have bingo set up for this situation. I don't use it often. I don't need streaming. I need this button.
Mwah.
You kiss the trans flag. I got one right here, honey. Boom. Oh. See here. We have general events. We have dev work. We have. That'll do. Do it. Be about right. Whatever fun we have, it will be great. I can knock one of these out right away. Boom. Coming out the gate swing. Maybe it's stupid. It needs to be bit. Bite it on the mouth. Just like that. Or try a refresh, I guess. I don't fucking know. Got options. There are options in this wretched world. Hey, look what I can do. Whee! Now there's multiple of me. Which me is the real me? Infinities. Make it bigger. There's more. No, you like it. Okay. Here's our. This is what Stream Bingo looks like for me. This is how I play the boss. Hope you like that. Hi. I see a K. How you doing, K? I hope you're doing K. Otherwise, your name makes sadness. Hey, K. Oh, maybe I have to accept these? Is it having a crap out? The viewer attack for some reason used to auto accept and then it stopped auto accepting and now it's just like see what it does now. It took my eyes, Goofy. Oh, okay. Hey, good news, the Comcast bill is paid. Proud of us, we did it. Did it. Thank you for all your support. The commission. Huh? Bad news, they also paid off the other one that was overdue. So that was $500 out of our account today. Who needs rent money? Whatever. At some point, you're just broken about it. You're like, all right, fine. That's how we want to be, I guess. We'll just play this game. I have a combatant. Combatant. Node 2D. I feel like the combatant should be other things. Whatever. We need a couple things. Here's my goal right now. I want to make actual functional enemies, maybe. And I did some work to start. Let me do it. I actually came in here. My brain just crapped out. Button. What's your problem? Right frames resource must be set. I know. We don't do that. You're all sad and poopy. Liz has reached a 7-stream streak. Thanks, Bird. How you doing today, Birdie? Okay, so here's the deal. I have a stat block. Is that a sprite? Let's quick load a sprite. What do we got? We got subscribe to tier 1. They've subscribed for 5 months. Oh. Taking all my money and I ain't even mad. Take everyone's money. And I'll spend it on surviving. Which makes me sad because I'm taking everyone's money. I'd like to spend it on something like beneficial to more than just me. Be pretty cool. Idle. To yeah, so right 2D. Okay. Oh, look at that go. Need to go into combatant. Here's what we got. We got a stat block. I made the stat block. I did this a couple weeks ago. It's very basic. It's all this crap on the right here. Is my mouse not showing up? It's there. It's there. I do control. Does it do the thingy? We all get to see the bump bump. Yeah, cool. Cool. Modding. So I can do this to highlight my mouse. It's a Windows thing. So this is everything that goes into, in theory, a basic mod. Aptitudes, your elements. I don't have like statuses yet, but core stats, fine. Then this thing, the mob. Call it's a goober. Monster. Okay. Where? Oh, you didn't like that. Name is a derivative. Monster name. There. How do you like that? A Bwomp registered. Bwomp. Bwomp noises. I keep forgetting what I'm doing. It's really cool. Okay, so stat block over here. I can save these. I can do whatever. Right now we're just doing a test one. So I got jellyflies. So let's start off easy. We know that that's the other thing I need. Bar, monster, level, int equals 1. Okay. There. We're going to do funk. Go. Hype train. Liz used 100 bits for reasons. I'll take it. Liz threw her bra at my face. It then slid down my titties and then flew away. This is very exciting, but also a little frightening. The bras are alive. They're all going to escape. And then what will happen? All the titties will be free, but at what cost? What threat to humanity? That's your writing prompt for today. Enjoy. Ready. On the ready prompt, okay, we are going to blah, 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 blah. We got a few things we need to do. The first thing I want to do, we're going to go ahead and do this. Just pop this right in here. SPR, because I'm simple. SPR dot. What do we actually call this? What is your name for this thing? Bright frames equals base stats dot that has mob sprite. Right? You right? Mob sprite, yes. SPR dot nation equals idle SPR dot. Oh, it did not like that. Why is it so mad? There it goes. That's why you throw bros. Always be misbehaving at work. Nice. Free range boobies at work. Nice. Throwing your underwear at me at work. Nice. Oh, I don't need that. I can just do idle. Okay, we'll just do idle. There we go. Idle. Bump, bump. Okay, so in theory, if I were to say play the scene, I think we'll just see a little dude flying around in the corner. Yep, there he is. So it is assigning correctly, and it is playing correctly. It doesn't have a camera. It's just on Origin, so he's just up there. Oh, you can't really see him. Let me... There he is. There's our little dude. He's all animated and shit. He's doing what he's supposed to. That's a great start. That is a great start. So. Oh. Hold on, I'm killing my caffeine. Feeling in control, feeling alive, feeling myself. Washed my hair today. Are you jealous? Ooh. That reminds me. Oh, shit. Okay, how's that? That started dragging the mic around. That probably sounded great. I'm sorry. Didn't want a break point. Okay. Whoa. Well, that is... There's a lot going on there. Hype. All right, all right, all right. Gift subs. Gift subs. Wow. Look at that. Gift subs. Hype train level 2. I think we get a prize for that. Holy in the what? That's right, Spritz. You now have access to the GIFs and stuff, I think. I think it's worth a pat. Yeah. Liz is throwing in bits. Liz is throwing in more bits. I don't know what the bits are doing. I can't really... I'm turning it so I can see better. It's not doing anything. It's just saying people doing bits. It's making bits fall from on high. Making bits fall on my bits. Pointy. At least not stepping on them. I step on them. That's going to hurt. My desktop audio on? Because that might be unideal. Oh, good. Making all sorts of noises. We're about to beat our last record, apparently. So that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. I think I just laughed out loud, so I guess I should mark that on the bingo, right? Da, 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 da. That's gonna keep bleeping at me. That's fun. Eruption. Impromptu. I am surprised. I am surprised. That was a new noise. That noise. 100%. We did it. Okay, wow, okay. All right. I'll take it. It's making all sorts of noises. I'm not playing a video game, but I sure am living in one right now because it's making all kinds of blink blonks. That's new. There's a trophy. I don't know what the trophy means, but there's a trophy. The train is training. The trophy is level 4. There's like things dancing on top of the screen. There's more noises. I can barely see the chat. Get trained, idiot. Mommy? Sorry. Back to lurk you go. Back to lurking, back to work, and everyone here to be a jerk. No one's being a jerk. Quite nice, actually. So many emotes bouncing on top of the chat. It's extremely distracting. It's kind of fun. Look at them go. Boing, 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 boing. It doesn't show up on the stream. Just trust me, guys. Get railed. You know what? It's fine, Kay. That's fine. Go for it. Go for it. Okay, so if I do anything, I guess that counts as me flirting with chat. If I do anything's on your bingo card, don't forget to call it out. So remember to actually hit the button. Because I am a Space Case Goober. Okay? Distract from the task at hand? Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, we got people aren't used to this. On the side of the stream, there's a little like stream bounty thing. If you hover over, there's also the viewer attack. There's a few different toys you can play with on our stream. So the stream bounty lets you play bingo. It's just for funsies. Sometimes we'll put something up for the winner, like a way to control the game or whatever. But right now we're not. Then it's just there for fun. And there's the viewer attack, which is how you throw tomatoes and bras and shit at me. And you can check in on that every stream and get a little check mark towards a free booster pack, which just gives you a random one that you may not be able to get with points. Some of them, yes. Some of them, I mean, it depends. It's the general set. Actually, most of them are not game specific. I'm trying to look. Analyzing visuals and Sarah gets disoriented in game. Those are your big two. I can get disoriented in my own game. Don't count me out. I am quite capable. 11 out of 10. I don't know. New subs goal. 11. I guess we had a subs goal or something. I don't know. I can barely follow. Now I am first store. Right. She's competitive. She's a competitive capitalist. Okay. What was I doing? Right. So we set up our little dude, and he's in the corner, and he exists. Right. He exists in the corner. Yay. Okay. So what we have to do. Read that too quick and thought it was Fisto. I mean, I've never been Fistoed before, and I'm scared to start now. There are a lot of people I trust less than Liz, so. Listen, if you're gonna get Fistoed by somebody, make it someone you trust. Whoa, music is happening. What's happening? What did you do? Sorry. Something unplugged on my wife's computer and I got serenaded. What's up, babe? Oh, okay. I guess that counts as cats he mentioned, so I'll go hit that button too. Goodness gracious. Pause and help. Just a second. Yeah. Well, okay, I'm not paused right. Oh, I gotta save up for a commish. I'm coming for your ass, don't you worry. Oh. Hey, really? Woo woo? My ass is clean. Oh no, the cat is flopping. It's very cute. Rolling around with a catnip. That's right. Yeah, hype train. This inverted are up to some shit. Hey, to bits, subs. I don't think it will hit us right away, but it goes in there and we get it eventually. You earned a hype chest. Open to see your reward. Oh my, what does that mean? 12 subs and 500 bits. That's quite exciting. I got the rock out emote. I actually kind of like that one. I kind of like that one. Choo choo. I don't always like them. I like that one. That's a fun one. Look at them go. Does that mean everyone gets different ones? Do you all get different rewards for that? I thought being in a hype train got you something. Your tongue gonna get wing chunged back at you? Hearing that with you coming for my ass, I'm a little bit getting ideas. Bang head, bang head, bang head, bang. Okay, maybe it's only if you like contribute to it. I don't know. I don't know how it works. I don't know how they work, man. I'm not aware. I'm learning in real time. Thank you, though, guys. It means a lot. Every bit of help means a lot. But that was more than a bit of help. That was quite literally unprecedented on this channel. So, how fancy? Yes, dear. Merlin has been. What about him? Oh, you want your chair? The cat is in my wife's chair.
I was attacking my legs. Stop!
Hey, well, stop chewing on your mother's legs, or I'm going to chew your legs. Cat. Ratio. All right. Bring him up. Here with me. Come here with me, Maybelline. Come say hi to the chat, Maybelline. Hello. I'm here with my cat. I'm holding her like the baby. She's oddly just kind of vibing with it, though she does get a little snorty like a pug. Makes you wonder if this makes it harder for her to breathe. But she's clearly fine because she's not fighting me or anything. She's just here, kind of looking around. Usually she doesn't put up with this. I'm like, what is up with you? Is it because I threatened to chew on your leg? Don't chew on mommy's leg. I won't chew on your leg. Yeah. Very, very. Yeah, it's orange. It's the orange one, baby. Abel. What you looking at, honey? You're just riding this. Oh, there's the growl. There's it is. Thank you for putting up with that for so long. Please chew on your mother's leg, or I'll do it again. The brain cell came back. Okay. Cat interruption. Getting started is half the fight. My father always said started is half done, but started is like I did one thing and then I got distracted by 6 other things. That's my life. Right. So here's the deal. Our little dude needs to determine all of their actual stats, right? Now, the core stats are not as important here as these. So, I am bumping into shit. Oh, you don't need to get ads, Spritz. Check this out. Here, everyone that just got a gift subscription, enjoy that I'm hitting this button and nothing's gonna happen to you. There you go. There is now an ad break in progress. If you got a gift subscription, you're not getting an ad. Liz, you silly goober. I just hit that button. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to refund the points for that one, Liz, because I just did it. And you can do it later because I can only run ads so fast. I think it needs to wait like 5 minutes or something. So you're going to have to wait just a moment. But then if you want to, we can do it again. Okay. So I don't think that banishes you or anything. It just gives you the points back for later when you're feeling more. So I saw an error message and completely lost my train of thought. I was in the middle of like 6 other things. Point being, the ad is running, and I can click the button, and by all means, if you have mod privileges, Lizzie, and you want to hit those buttons for me once in a while, go for it. Okay, export. Okay, I'm only exporting for now so I can see them. I don't think I'll need most of these exported. I don't want these. These will not be exported. These will access another way. Okay. It's EP. I should fix that early. Ape. Stat block. There we go. Let's change this. Max EP. Because it is EP, not MP. Energy points in this. There's reasons. I have reasons. Okay. No. And you'll note if you look up in here, it does automatically update this. EP. Hooray. Some of these have descriptions. Most don't. Okay, we got MP, EP, bar, PAT, PATK, on, bar, PDF. Okay. Physical, magic. EVDs. Use EVD. Just adding a crap ton of variables. Do we enjoy the crap ton of variables? Okay. On ready, we're going to make a second function to separate this just to make it easier to find. I'm going to try to be smart for once. Okay. Or calculate stats. Okay. Now, pretty straightforward. To start this, MHP equals your enjoyment is very able to see. I'm supposed to be make a run. Okay, we're only going to do this one once. We're going to do this here. Okay, we're going to do calculate stats. Yes, dear? You only need to do HP and EP initialization once. Not too bad. Okay. Your ability to see is not variable. I'm sorry. It is tiny. I admit it's tiny. Coding is not the most exciting thing to watch. You do get to hear me think out loud. So that's fun. And if it breaks, you get to point and laugh. Okay. Right out the gate. And HP in general. I'm sorry. Why is it just the glasses thing, or are you actually like having issues seeing? If it's a bad eyesight joke, I'm with you, but now I'm like, oh no, health concerns. Lizzie, are you alright? Max HP equals. I had a formula for this. Oh no. Okay. HP equals max HP. That's what we wanted at the end. Just that I need glasses. What if? What if what? Your max HP was 1? You'd be pretty sad. Guess what? We're going into our web browser. Is that one of them, or is it a specific website? We're not going to documentation. We're going to Google Docs. Apparently just uses the drive icon? No? What was that about? Land Force Combat System. I did stuff, okay? Okay. Max HP, max EP. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. I did a write-up, guys. It's the closest thing you're getting to a design document from my dumbass. 2 monocles. Well, then you could use them as needed. You could have a blind eye whenever you want. Okay, so what we got? EP levels, yep. Your EP? I'm always EP. Sarah, do not be Googling right. Well, I mean, I am on a Google site, but I'm not Googling. Various aptitudes, strength, effects, physical, offense, defense, HP, and EP. Right. So, base value of all substats equal to their total applicable level as determined by the slime's dungeon level and test. Right. HP and EP are exceptions with default values starting at 5 plus strength plus level. Okay. We're just going to go ahead and grab that right there. The blessed design scrolls. Ha, baby. Okay, so we take this and we go in here. For the sake of my brain, I'm just going to paste this as a comment, right? So, max HP equals 5 plus. Reference our base stats. Okay, base stats dot HP aptitude. Okay. Dot strength. 5 plus base stats dot strength plus level times 2. That's so weird. That doesn't make plus level times. You gain 2 HP every level. Why would I have done that? That's so weird. I don't think I tested this. 5 plus strength, that makes sense, right? Because your strength is one of your 3 core stats. Plus level time. Then you'd be multiplied by your luck. I don't know why I did that. Galaria's strength is I wrote an example. Let's see. Galaria's strength is presently at 4, setting her base HP to 9. 5 and 4. Fine. Dungeoneering strength is a bit because it goes up when you level. The numbers go up when you level. I'm so stupid.
Hey,
Yes, dear. Angle that. Angle that. Babylon. Babylon. Naughty baby. Baby. Boy, it's a baby. I'm dumb. Okay, her dungeoneering is level 2. So she is level 2. HP is 18 because it's base times 2. This determines her base HP. So level effect. Why is level there? Level doesn't need to be there. Because this just confuses it, doesn't it? I don't think we need this. What if I just did 5 plus STR? And then we multiplied that times the level. Okay, so base times 2. Dungeoneering's level 2. Right, so she's dungeon level 2. I'm glad I wrote these. Glad I wrote these things. That's probably given plus 4 HP levels specifically. This is specific to the slimes. These are going to be their own fucking problem. Raising her HP by an additional 36. Base times 4. Yes. Working HP is now 54 before assessing aptitude. Equip trinket grants max HP plus 10. HP aptitude is 85. Gives end result of 54.4. Always rounded up in the player's favor, 55. Okay. Yes, so 5 plus strength times the level. So your base HP is this times your level. There we go. 5 plus strength times level. Now, strength goes up with your level. Oh, no. Right, because strength is a core stat. That wouldn't go up every level. That base number level multiplies it. It's a weird leveling system. I acknowledge I did this strangely. What's this notification, Twitch? Walkout emote unlocked. We've reached type train level 4. That is quite the improvement over level 2. Thank you, Arlen. Okay. Why are you... Oh. Mob level. This will need some adjustment later. I can just change this to level. Unit name and level. Do that. A little more universal because this will be found your Julie work. Okay. Times level. Fine. If your strength is 3, your base is 8. Times level times base stats dot max HP. Dude. Just to be really sure we get this in the right order, it'll be fine. Okay. Pops. That should all be Gucci. All right. So if it's level 2, it'd be whatever. Cool. For the sake of argument, let's set this to like 3, 2, 4. There we go. Good base stats for a dumb little idiot. Let's do 5 even. 5. It's fast. It's fast, but it's weenie. It's literally a fly. Let's make it even stupider. Okay. 3, 1, 4. It's a starting area. Fine. We're playing around. There will be a lot of balancing over. For now, we're just trying to make this work. Okay. MHP, HP. So same thing. MEP equals, we're going to do the same exact thing. Basically. X EP aptitude. So these are multipliers. The aptitudes are multipliers. So if it's a multiplier of like 5, that would mean whatever your base HP is, you're going to get that times your level times 5. It can go as high as I want it. Slider only goes 5x and down to 0, which means no matter how strong you set it, you're still 0. Or if this is what people feel like when they speak Spanish, and when I speak Spanish and they do not. C. Probably. EP equals MEP. Beep. Okay. And in the end, this should still just compile just fine, and our little dude will be in the corner being a little dude. Never mind, I opened the title screen. Yes. Look at him up there being a little guy. Nothing happens. We don't even have a mouse pointer. Fine. I'm going to sneeze so good. The problema es el capitalismo. See. All right. Now, calculating stats, very similar process here. Physical attack and all that shit, okay? So, we've gone through these four. These are our HP and our EP, basically our MP, right? The numbers that go up and down the most. And then we have our static function, whatever. Physical attack. We're just going to copy this straight down for now. We're going to do them one at a time. They'll be very straightforward. Theory. Let's get rid of these vars. It'll be great. Never like, oh, that's so sexy. You're so sexy. And I'll be like, thank you. I know. I'm doing such amazing things. Understand every word I am doing. Now, the idea is this will account for other things down the line as well, like there are equipment bonuses and whatnot. But at the moment, we don't have anything of the sort. We're just making this work, but we call this anytime we need to update these stats. Look at me go. Okay, physical attack, straightforward. Let's go check our documentation. All right. So same thing, core stat increases similar process. Yes, aptitudes are not considered here. Base strength is 3, level 4. I don't think that's going to stay the way it is. Yeah, we're going to change that as we go. Because I'm doing the levels in... I don't think base numbers are really going to matter. Physical attack equals base stats dot strength times base stats dot oh right physical offense aptitude. Go. FP attack twice because I'm broken. Stats dot strength. Go. Es el problema cada hora, cada día, cada año. Estoy cansado, Jefe. I have no idea what I just said or if I did it right. Whee! It's been a long time. I don't think I know a single word. I know problema. That's the problema. It's the problem. Estoy I used to know. It's something about self, I think. Am, is, you, Smile and wave, boys. What's up? I'm just gonna get smarter and do this. I could complicate these if I want to. Right now, I'm just trying to make this. We multiply these by level. In fact, we probably want to put this here. That ain't right. Doing math and stuff is really hard. All right. Please don't trick me into saying something bad. I wouldn't know. Strength, yeah. Strength affects physical stuff. Intelligence affects magical stuff. Agility. Okay, so they're all 1-to-1. None of these have a lot of crossplay presently. So base stats and aptitudes make up what the monster's good at. Kind of period. Fine. Present, all these aptitudes are 1. So let's do a fun little print. String ATK. We're just going to take some random variables here. Let's see, what's another good one? This will give us a pretty good idea if things are working as intended. If I want to get more involved, I can, but I want to keep it pretty minimal. Let's do evade. Okay, in theory, when I hit play, I should get a nice little readout down here. Uh-oh. No key intelligence. Intelligence. I have so much intelligence. I'm so good at my intelligence. I don't typo. Typo in the group chat. Okay. Statue calculated. Physical attack 3, magical defense 1, evade 4. Now in theory, homeboy should be 3-1-4. Perfect, because it's all 1-1-1, right? Piece of cake. That is transferring the stats are being set right so far. So for a fun one, let's set our evade to like 1.5x and our attack to 1.2. And its magical defense is like 0.5. All right, this should give us completely different numbers down there based on that. Ladies and legend events, right? So now, physical attack is 3, right? So physical attack is physical offense aptitude 1.2 times 3. What's that round to? Let's look. That's probably right. 0.2 times 3, 3.6. That should have rounded up. What we're gonna do with that? I don't think that's gonna work. I'll have to play with that. That is working. It's just reducing it. That should probably be a 4, but I don't know why it's dropping it to a 3. It's something about an integer and float pairing, which it is shockingly not yelling at me about. In the debugger. Float is converting the int lose. Yes. I'll play with that in a minute. For now, output magical defense is 0, right? So its intelligence is 1. It's halved. It's rounded down. That makes because it's a float conversion. And then evade is agility, which is 4, with the aptitude of 1.5. So that should be 6, and it is 6. So yes, it is applying these just in a way that I did not quite expect. So let's do a seal I. I'm gonna hit this to see what it does exactly. You can call this documentation opened. Why not? It is literally the documentation. So, yup. I'm in the wrong place. Oh. Documentation opened. Ding. File error. Had one of those. All right. Rounds X upward, returning the smallest whole number that is not less than X. A type safe version of seal returning int. Okay. Got it. Got it. Easy enough. Okay. So yeah, here's what we want to do. Really stupid. Do a float. I'm going to cast this to a float. What that means is we take the integer, which is a whole number, and we convert it to something that at least knows what a decimal fucking is. Right? And then we multiply that by the level and the base stats. The level's an integer, but that's fine. It doesn't matter. As long as we have a float to work with, I think we're fine. Technically, I could go a step further since these are both going to be integers no matter what. We're just going to do that. Okay? So we got two whole numbers. They're going to multiply together, and we're going to turn that into a magical, it can know what a decimal is number. That's the only difference. Give or take that if you print out that magical knows what decimal is number because of how it's stored, it might have like 0.000000000000000 something at the end of it because computers are wizard shit. So, fine. And then we multiply this by another number that knows what decimal is because these, as you will note, are all multipliers in decimals, if you can even read it. So like 1.5x, 5x, right? These are multipliers like of these numbers. Your strength with a 50, if you played this guy, I'm using a very similar system to that. I just enjoy that system. So no matter how high one of these three stats gets, apparently your intelligence is negative 204. Don't ask me how I did that. I think I was spacing out for a second and just broke my mouse somewhere. You're very stupid. Negative 204. Enjoy death. You are an intelligence black hole. New insult. Okay, enjoy. The point being, computers are wizard shit, and if you try to, in Godot at least, multiply an integer by a float, which is, again, a number that knows what a decimal point is, as opposed, integers don't. I think mathematically, literally, the term for a whole number is an integer, but that's high school, and who remembers that? Float did not come up in your fucking math class. How's that? That is a computer term. So that one I will explain. Since we know what a decimal is in both, it will then give us a number with a decimal, and what seal I does is it rounds that up, no matter what. If it's 1.1, it is still 2 to a whole number and sends that back to the integer that is the actual stat. And that is what they called type safe because it just doesn't know what it's returning otherwise, and this makes sure it's returning what you want it to return and blah, 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 blah. So it's not like you tried to shove a square peg in a round hole or whatever. Intelligence black hole was my nickname in college. That's the worst place to have that be your nickname. That's your butthole's name?
Yeah.
I'm sorry? That sucks. Baby. Apparently Katie's butthole's name is Intelligence Black Hole.
IBH.
IBH. That one got me to grin, but not for a good reason. You monster. Their name is Blitz. Alright. So in theory, this shouldn't explode and should give us slightly more accurate numbers. It didn't explode. Yeah. Sorry, baby. The fly is flying. There he is. La 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 la. Okay. Physical attack 4. Okay, cool. So listen. 3, 1.2. That's 3.6 or whatever. That rounds up to 4. Perfect. Intelligence 1. So it's magical defense is 1. It is 1 times 0.5. It's going to be 1. Great. And then agility is 4. Speed is of 8 is 6. That is 4 times 1.5. Rounded up. Great. Cool. Now we can really be a dumbass and play with this. First person to say a number between 1 and 5, I'm putting that number in. Well, not 1. Not 1. 3. Katie said 3. Everyone loses because they have stream lag and she doesn't. Okay, we're setting its level to 3. Now these numbers should do more math shit. Okay? There we go. So, all right.
Oh, hush, Spring.
That's just boo. You're right. It is a little boo. But you know what? I have to amuse my wife. I love my wife. She gives me a stat buff. Anyway. That was stupid. All right. So
I give you many of
the buff. Yes. So physical attack is our strength of 3 times our level of 3, so 9 times our aptitude for physical attack of 1.2. So, sake of argument, 9 times 1.2 is 10.8. This should be 11. And down here in my little console, it says physical attack 11. I don't think anyone can see that. I could make you see that. I could. Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. Here we go. What? Your snacky bag? Snacky bag? There we go. There it is. There we go. This here is what we're trying to get. Your snacky bag. I feel like tonight zoomed in. It's a spell too. I mean, in D&D, there's a wedding ring that gives you +2 AC or something when you're close to each other. That's cute. So, all right. Physical attack's working. Magical defense of 2. Let's look at that. Magical defense. Intelligence times level. 1. That's what happened. That's what happened. I drug left. Okay. 1 times the intelligence. The physical defense aptitude is 1. So 2. Oh, magic defense. Magical, yeah, 0.5. So 1 times 3, because intelligence times level is 3, times 0.5, so 1.5. Rounded up is 2, and that is a magical defense of 2. Evade is 18, so our agility is 4, our level is 3, that is 12, times aptitude, which is 1.5, which I believe is 18, but just to double check. 12 times 1.5 is in fact 18. These are working swimmingly. Recently obtained a buff for my husband, +1 to slapping bald heads. That's just called a shiny target. That's what that is. Ugh. Wait, did he shave his beard too, or is he just a baldy with a beard? Like, is he trying to look like the neighborhood stoner? Accomplished. Bless him. All right, let's play this game. Slap a 2x up here. Print MHP. We're just going to make this a straightforward. Reset. Could be the same basic thing. MHP, 5 plus strength. All right, so 5 plus 3, 8 times level 3. That's 24, right? 24 times HP aptitude, which is double, so that should be 48. And our max HP here says 48. So yes, this is all working great. We're doing awesome. No need to worry. The system is functioning as intended. We can even call that a victory for the sake of the the bingo if we'd all like to, though we have a long ways to go before we're properly doing anything. Oh, let me reset the screen so you can actually see what else I'm doing besides the debug output. Does that sound? Transform reset. That ain't right. Dum dum dooby dooby doo. Transform skill.
Dum-dum.
I am your dum dum. I would love a Reese's cup. Thank you for offering a Reese's cup. I will cup your Reese's. That me. Two Reese's. My wife loves me. She gave me 2 Reese's cup. Did your wife give you 2 Reese's cup? No. My wife better than yours. Yeah.
There, Nate. You have people in this chat who are married.
Hey. I think if you're married, you should feel that way about your wife, period. So, you know, my wife better than yours, but you probably think your wife better than mine. And you know what? Good. That's how you should feel. They gave you 3 Reese's cup. That is stiff competition. I'm not going to lie. No, I'm pretty sure Kay's single and lying out his ass.
Kay's married.
Kay's married?
Married with a wife.
Kay's married with a wife who gave him 3 Reese's cup? No, I'm good, but I appreciate that you're offering it in the competitive spirit. But you see, I also want to be a good wife, ergo I'm letting you keep your Reese's cup.
Be equal.
We are equal. We got 2. Yeah. We got 2 Reese's cup each. We're equal. I love you. Fine, I take Reese's cup and I give it back to you. Stiff competition was my nickname in college. I thought it was Intelligence Black Hole. Stiff Intelligence Black Hole competition. He's just sassing. Stop it. Goodness gracious. Hey. Cat candy. I don't need more candy. Thank you. Oh my God. Hey, you're making her give up her candy. Didn't you just gave me 4 fucking Reese's cups? So I got 6 overall. She's not taking it. They're not the baby ones either. They're the normal size. Intelligence Black Stiff competition hole. Ibschke. Good grief. Technically, if they weren't king-size packages, that would be 3 packages of Reese's Cup. Okay. The spouses are fighting. Okay. War of the spouses. I love you all. You're goobers. Okay. All right. So I expected this to be harder. I'm quite happy with this working at the sake of argument. If I go in the 2D, our little dude isn't here even. So that's cool. That's cool. Oh, I had the worm imported. Guess not. How distressing. This is a combatant. What's the next thing we need to do? Need a way to click on the component. Can you do that with an Area 2D? Look. Signals. Area shape, body. Excuse me. Mouse entered, exited. Could even. So in theory. Interesting. One ear. Vision 1, like top of the line in sports. Sports are for nerd. Anyway. Okay. Area 2D. We need to give this a shape. Vision shape 2D. Be a nice the angle shape. That's what this should be. Only detect collision. Cool that it has it. Debug color. Transform. Rectangle shape. I need to set the. Say things like that. Sake of argument, if I brought in the jellyfly, just tell me. Jack shit. Ooh. Patient and scale. I get it's okay. Interesting. Area 2D, we need to do a signal, good event, batten. Good event. Shape ID X. If event is what? Ah! 8 fucking. Now we're Googling. Will you two just kiss already? Just kiss so your partners can watch and go, nice, nice, nice. You know who. Which for me, loves. If event is input event mouse button. Your kiss does begin with K. Spritz got it. Already bit. True. Print clicked, dude. Now here's the problem. That's only going to work for like a really tiny corner. Did click, dude. Hmm. I reduce it to once. Okay. It is registering that we clicked dude. Only so much dude. What have I done? You know what? This just tells me that if they ever went for 69, we'd have a perpetual motion machine because they keep spinning trying to decide who's on top. We could power the world. All it would cost is two people's partners. More than one person. Language is weird. All right. Let me think. Okay, it is getting clicked. Okay. Collision Shape 2D. You okay, babe?
Yeah.
Very to Collision Shape 2D. Dot shape dot size. Think equals SPR dot entered flip H frame right frames. Scale skew transform. Get can node position transform green rect. Gotta be item rect chain. That's interesting. That means can't find its boundaries, position, size change. Action took place may affect right 2D dot texture. Okay. Ooped. Rect change. Help me. I need to know what the rect is. Get. Rect. I don't think this is correct. $69. Yes, like Sonic 4, the 69 roll. Sorry, I'm big think right now. I don't want the viewports round, Reese. I want. This is not what we're after. Okay. We're gonna hop back over. Ditto get animated sprite size. Pixel size of an animated sprite. Sprite texture, sprite frames, get frame. Size. Interesting. Okay. Get frame. Why do you go away? Okay, let's try that. That's a little out of the way. We'll see what happens. I click you way over here. Clicked dude, clicked dude, clicked dude. Only when he's there. Okay, cool. I did it! I did it! I just got Big Lips dog. I missed out on sucking. Not yet, sweetheart. Sucking is the friends we made around. No, the sucking is what you do to the friends you made. Come on now. We suck the friends we made along the way, or whatever. Friends, why you so big? Oh. What am I sucking? Your friends. Suck and fuck your way across the country. This rate's gonna be the only way to make a fucking living around here. Guys make money. You know, kind of do. Don't worry about the details, Mom. That's 10 today. Oh. Get better at swallowing. Give it time. Well, let me just smack the mic with that. Nice metals clonk. Suck the cheese off your worst enemy's pizza? That's just rude. Why would you steal a man's cheese like that? That's holy ground. That's against my religion. Right. So, here's what we got. Here's what we've got so far. I don't know if I can move this per se. I'll try to do it so we can actually see it. Here we go. I wouldn't recommend this typically, but fine. Now it'll work. There we go. Gotta fly. I don't have a mouse pointer, so forgive me as I blindly hit control to see where my mouse is. Anywhere on the fly, if I click, it should pop up click to dude on my debug, and it does. Off the fly should not. Yes, okay, cool. So the monsters are now clickable. I have clickable monsters. Pizza node get motherfucker. Touch my fall they have. Okay, that depends. That depends. That depends. There are some cheese pizzas that can be bomb. Okay, if you get like a 4 cheese or something, like a really cheesy one, pretty damn good. I preferred the pepperoni one when they did it, but the Little Caesars, the pretzel pizza with the cheese sauce, get that with a good cheese mix because Little Caesars, I love their cheese. Love their cheese. That shit's real good. That shit is really good. Right, the pepperoni's a bit better, but just like, oh, dude. I cannot say that just cheese is all bad. Plain mozza is a little bland for like mozzarella is great. Don't get me wrong. I love mozzarella. I mean, I guess plain mozza, I wouldn't complain. How's that? But a good cheese mix on a pizza can work great. It can work great. Your toppings York, that's fine. But sometimes I want a mozzarella stick on bread, basically. So, all right, let's see. Something doesn't work as intended. We Googled. Yeah. Okay. I gotta mark some. I'll do. No one else have something they need me to mark that they know I've done. I'm gonna say it works. This is going about as well as I could hope. All right. So put that back where it was. We have an adaptive collision box that should change with whatever the sprite is for the monster. So you can click on the monster to target it in combat because, gotta remember, 90% mouse game. Not interested if not at least 3 non-cheese paws. I am disappointed in you. You're the cheese paws. You're the cheese boss. What if there's like 8 cheeses? Come on. God. Oh. Oh. You will. Cave. Cheese boss. I'm so confused. What you get me to eat, baby? Oh boy, that's a lot. This. That's a JoJo? Jesus Christ. KFC make big JoJo. Pork. Pork meat.
Her name.
Yeah, I guess it's dinner time. How we doing? Oh, what happened?
Forehead like an.
Hey, is sucking on your forehead like an. I mean, shouldn't we all? What? 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 That's wrong. Let's hop over to the cave and just chat for a little bit while I eat. How's that sound? How does that sound? Hello. Welcome to the cave. I'll catch up in a second. Multi-cheese pizza is valid. Thank you, Spritz. Someone understands. Straight up light out vodka cheddar. Yeah, fine. Cheddar's not my favorite, but fine. Is cheese not necessary on burger? It depends. Okay. How seasoned is the burger? Okay, if it's a well-seasoned burger, if the meat can carry it, sure. Now, mind you, I'm a plain cheeseburger freak. One of those that must control everything in my mouth at all times, autisms. So, whatever. But to me, a burger is the meat and cheese. But that's also my that's my problem with cheddar. It melts like ass. Cheddar is not a bad flavor. It is not a good melter cheese. You gotta like do like a sauce out of it or something. Then I'm on board. But living a lie this whole time where pizza is concerned. Okay, maybe you're also into the texture. and you want different textures on your pizza. I don't know, fine. But sometimes you mozzarella stick bitch over here. I do just want a pizza that is, when I bite into it, it has a cheese pull. All right. I just want the cheese pull, and I want a nice blend. All right. I want some flavor. Like some arm mozzarella, Colby, whatever you want to do there, cheddar, the pizza blend. Throw in a Gouda or something. I don't know. Get spicy. I'll never know. All right, but you get a good blend of cheeses and some seasoning on the cheeses to really like help them pop. Oh, I want to say it's like Red Baron or something. It's like a garlic and maybe a bit of parsley or something on top of their cheese pizzas, and that is apparently amazing to me. Um, like paired with the right sauce, paired with the right whatever, it can be very good. Be very good. Pizza is a waste of carbs if it's not laden with meats and veggies. Okay, yeah, if you want to think nutrition minded, a cheese pizza is pointless. What? Your drink spilled all over you? Sure. Okay.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm needy.
Tits are out! Tits are out! Kathy's tits are out! Woo!
They're horrible.
Bite my washing machine. Okay. And pizza isn't just a waste of carbs. I mean, pizza has protein. Come on, man. Not a lot, but it's some. It's some. You wish you were home with your tits out? Stop giving me bad thoughts. Okay. Soon, her week just started, man. I'm sorry. She had a day off, and now she's back in that shithole. Oh, Lizzie. Breast boobly and freedom. That is actually a good plan. I like Kay's plan. Can we do Kay's plan? It would take care of the boy. Maybe more than is justified, but it'd take care of him in a fucked up way. Oh, mac and cheese with nuggets in it, but mac and cheese. Okay, fine. We don't set your workplace on fire. Need money to live. I know. Arson is always the question. The answer is always yes. No, the actual question, the answer is always arson. The question is when. That's what you got to worry about. When is the right time? And where? I'd go full journalism and pull out the who and the why, but we all know. We all know. Something, something, you just had to pay us a living wage, something, something. Not up roaring flames, you know.
That's fine. But I have to point out my general location is a little hard to set ablaze. Not impossible, I'm sure. I mean, there's plants. Damp plants. Fritz. Honey. I'd love to. But alas, they run the country. If I do that, I go to jail. Then I cannot appear before you all outside of your dreams. I don't know how many people dream of me, but I'm going to guess the number is low. By the sounds of it, when they do, I'm kind of a dick. Strength in numbers. Well, there's many ways to achieve that, I guess. Chicken no fit in mouth. They got rid of popcorn chicken and replaced it with these nugget things. That's what the people wanted. I don't. The nuggets could at least be crispy skin instead of the boneless wing. Yeah, well, okay. Now I like boneless wings, but you call them what they are. They're nuggets, right? They're fat nuggets. Yeah. That's fine for me. I love tits even on chickens. I just have a different purpose for them in that case. So, you know, like titties on a person, titties on a chicken. Either way, I want them in my mouth. It's the end result that varies. So, was it about free boobing? What were we talking about? Anyway, who's taking off their shirt? Everybody? Everybody taking off your shirt? It's out Tuesdays. Only on twitch.tv/Cat I don't know. I mean, probably. Depends on the sauce, because I'm not taking a bite out of my wife, and so I gotta like the sauce on its own. Good food can carry mediocre barbecue sauce, but if you're just eating the sauce, will strip your so support all the same. Got it. It's gotta be tits out Tuesday because then Liz isn't at work and everyone else is. So I free the majority from the bonds of capitalism, but Liz doesn't have to be perceived at work because I'm a good friend. See, I've got the plan.
That's the kind of
Sweet Baby Ray's.
Mhm.
I like a good honey barbecue or Hawaiian barbecue. I think is
Baby Ray.
Sweet Baby Ray's Hawaiian barbecue. That shit's my shit. I like a sweet barbecue, I guess. Hey, did you know the girl with the sweet tooth likes sweet stuff? Wogue. But not too sweet, apparently, because I don't like peaches. Isn't that weird? Excuse me. Garlic butter can be very good. I don't know if I want it slathered all over my body. Because when garlic gets cold, things become rapidly unpleasant. Not garlic, butter. Butter. Did I say when garlic gets cold? Marinade? Ranch depends heavily on the ranch. There's some good ranch and there is some ass ranch. You can eat peaches. I don't care if anyone eats peaches. It's not like pickles are like, oh, the smell. No, it's peaches are just too sweet for me. I just think I don't like the flavor of peach for some reason. Same with a lot of melons. Like I love watermelon. I don't like cantaloupe at all. I don't like the texture. I don't like the flavor. Not a fan. Ranch, I'm a snob. Okay? Ranch snob. I make my own ranch. Here's the thing about ranch, okay? Ranch is just the seasoning, milk, and mayonnaise. That's all that really goes in ranch. It could be milk, it could be buttermilk, depends on the ranch. But because it's just the seasoning and those two things, how the ranch tastes is almost exclusively going to be determined by those two things. So, like, I use Hidden Valley Ranch seasoning to make ranch, but I make it with, like, Best Foods mayo and milk, whole milk, right? Whereas they use, like, buttermilk and they use, who knows what. But a lot of ranch, especially bottled Hidden Valley, has this weird kind of sour funk tart to it that I explicitly do not like. Now I do want a little tart. It is supposed to have a little tart to it because it's ranch, right? It's got the seasonings have a sort of like hint of something. But the bottled ranch, is there a bottled ranch I like? Is it sweet?
You don't mind,
That Sweet Baby Raised at a Ranch I thought was okay, of all things. But even restaurant ranch, it really depends. And the
I
wrong
like Angry.
Angry's Ranch was all right. McDonald's Ranch I specifically like on McDonald's chicken tenders, nothing else. McDonald's is very good at our stuff goes good with our stuff, and that's what our stuff is for. I don't know. I love Red Robin's Ranch. I would take that home by the gallon. Sizzlers is pretty good. But basically, it really does boil down. Usually it's the milk and the mayonnaise. And I was raised by a mother who would not buy most mayonnaise.
Yeah, you like Ken.
Ken's Steakhouse. That sounds about right.
You like Ken. Rays.
Okay. Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue, yeah. Honey barbecue. Ken's Steakhouse Ranch was acceptable. Red Robin Ranch, unless they've changed it since COVID, because I never get out of the house anymore. Red Robin Ranch used to be like my favorite shit. I love that crap. Very good. Oh, the rosemary fries. I'll even do that at fucking Burgerville. You put rosemary on fries, I'm your slut. You're like, look, I've never ridden it before, but I'm about to learn for those. Let's go. Oh, rosemary fries. Total nasty for rosemary fries. And I emphasis on the nasty because Kate can't stand the smell. How would you describe the smell of rosemary fries, baby?
Smell like feet.
They smell like feet.
Herbs.
And herbs. I mean, they are herbs. Do fries on my roast till I'm merry. Yo, we're going merry. One Piece music. I was just going to say One Piece theme song, but I'll be honest, I'm not a big We're on a Cruise fan for easy listening. It can be used. It can be used for emotional assault, like at the end of the Alabasta, you motherfuckers. What? What? Eat up your quesadillas and put that in the fridge. Yeah, just a sec. Spritz, it's not over here. Okay. Spices on fries are personal taste. Try onion powder or salt. It goes miles, man. It goes miles. I'm just saying. Good now. I think the thing at Red Robin, I think what Red Robin does, it makes them extra nasty. I love it. I love it. Is garlic on the rosemary. It's garlic rosemary fries. Oh, your legally distinct devil fruit night. Yeah, that's when you can't swim in lava. Totally different. No, even as a kid, like I loved. What were they called? Fajita fries. They were just seasoned fries. Mom could find it like shopping cart. But seasoned, like a lot of seasoned fries, but it's just here's curly fries, but they're straight, and that's fine. Sometimes I get curly fries that aren't seasoned, and I feel like that's blasphemy, and someone needs to die for that. You know, would it kill KFC to save some like the crumbly bits from their chicken and put these in there, like put it in here like breadcrumbs? For their fucking mac and cheese. Ah, little breadcrumb is good on that. Crispy. You want that crisp. Mac and cheese with some crisp in it's nice. That's why I like it with bacon so much. Exactly. Again, why aren't the nuggets in the crispy breading? Why aren't they regular? Fuck regular. Crispy all the way. All the way. Enjoy. You're welcome. Oh, I love a KFC crumble. But also KFC has switched back to we have a KFC A&W hybrid, and historically they do not have JoJo's. They have fries. Then KFC started having fries, so the hybrid stopped having A&W fries and started having seasoned KFC fries. Those were very good. And now apparently they've gotten rid of those and brought in the JoJo's, the potato wedges, whatever you want to call them. So now we have them, and the only size they come in apparently is my head. So I have a size of my head potato wedge box next to me to just bunch on whenever, I guess. Now, if I used to lament that they did not have the potato wedges, but then they had the KFC fries. So now this implies the KFC fries are gone, and I'm a little upset because those were really good. Yo, we're munching head. Your head's munching? Your head's munching? Carpet or hardwood? Badum tish.
Grenade.
Yes, Yuri. Welcome, Yuri. It is a trans bikini. Have you not seen it yet? Here you go. Full otter. Whilst I eat. Don't ask what I'm standing on. If I change the camera angle, you'll learn I can fly. Better be a good fit. It was custom. I drew it there. On me. Also, it has exactly one dot of out of place color. I can see it, and it makes me want to kill everything. I'm stable. I'm so stable.
I see it.
You see it?
Tiny nipples.
My teeny tiny weird pink loose thread. Ah! I'm good. I'm good. Good. I also have my mac and cheese. And we'll get back to whatever I'm doing. I made the mob mostly work. Now I just got to make it do stuff, which means it needs a battle thing. Ooh, it's time. Okay. Just need a lighter, and we get you and your arson. you want me to take it off, just say so. What? I didn't say I'd do it. I just appreciate the honesty. I like things honest. Like when anime fans get upset about censorship, just be honest. You wanted the goon. You wanted the goon. Like the actual narrative content doesn't change. They like just make someone's cleavage a little less cleavage. You're like, this is undue censorship. It's like, whatever, dude. Your story's still there. Everything's still intact. It's not fucking for kids. Like, no, it's not pure Japan or whatever, but like they gotta appeal to the ESRB just like they gotta appeal to Peggy and their own ratings board and all that shit. Welcome to the business. Welcome to capitalism in hell, alright? Now half those people will be like, we need to protect the children from the transits. Well, guess what? Chuckle fuck. Like, that's gonna result in censorship too, so. You want to protect the children, you gotta, accept that sometimes it's gonna mean things you like don't get to stay there. Burning clothes only happens to those that gotta take petty actions. Why are we taking petty actions against me though? Why we gotta take petty actions on me, Kay? What did I do? Just because I instigated competitive kissing between you and my wife for my own amusement. Okay. What's that? I'm a goof. Gosh. Time to go play an Olympic sport. Roman Coliseum fights were pretty 18 plus by default, dude. Here's naked men fighting lions. You see dick out, you see dick bit off. Sometimes entrails on the ground. You don't get much more 18 plus than the fucking Coliseum. Woo! I'm an 8. I'm gonna rub the face clean of the mac and cheese. Twist that dick. Oh, that didn't spin as well as I want. Well, upside down now. This has happened. Oh, apparently Automod thought grab his dick and twist it was too much, but twist that dick was fine. What a smart system. What a very smart system. Okay. Shall we? Oh, we got 10 viewers. That's rare. I get to mark that off on bingo. Yeah, wee. Okay. I get to mark a couple things on bingo. All right, let's see what we got. Let's see what we have. 10 viewers. Ta-da! VTuber shenanigans. Absolutely. Just got to find the right combo, and I keep hitting that spot. Oh, yeah. I get it. Sarah talks game design. Sarah gets tilted. I wasn't quite tilted, but I am confused and ashamed on Lizzie's pizza preferences, but it's fine. Let's find more cheese pizza for me. More cheese pizza for me to moan erotically while I eat and make uncomfortable eye contact. If it's good cheese pizza, you're getting it. You're getting that out of me. You're gonna be like, what is she doing? I'll be over like, oh yeah, like I will be losing my mind. Wife can confirm. There are moments where I'm just like, oh. ranch pork chops. Oh, yes. Yes. Those are good. Give me treats. There. Excellent cheese pizza is great. It is a mood. I don't always want it, but when I want it, oh, I always talk in weird voice. Okay, let's see. Resource input care. Yep. I think we're good. I think we're good for now. All right. Don't forget, you can join the bingo. You can join the bingo with the stream bounty thingy. You can claim your progress on a booster pack for something free to throw at the screen in the viewer attack thing. Their extensions, they are over the stream somewhere. A little heart tomato and like a funny logo for stream bounty. It's purple and black. That's what I got. It's purple. Hey, let's get rid of the infinity mirror. Oh my god. Okay. So, as a quick catch up for myself and everyone else, before I honestly should run an ad because I meant to do that before I came back, but whatever. Here's what we've done. Okay, we have made this great little thing. What is this great little thing? This is our little monster. There he is. There's a little monster. Isn't he little and a monster? All right. Now I have a mouse. It doesn't have a pointer right now because my window doesn't show up. But if you click him, it does know it clicks him. I have a little debug thing down on the bottom left behind my fat head. Yips, whatever. That is clicked dude. Awesome. He has stats. Right? He's got a stat block up in here that I can set and adjust as I need. I got all this stuff. He has level. He has a name. Jellyfly. All right? Jellyfly. We're going to start there. He's going to be our default tester. Okay? That is what we're at to start. Cool. There's a lot of stuff we have to do to make combat actually work, but this is all the base stuff for a fundamental unit that does unit thing. How exciting. You don't want these JoJo. I'm going to set them aside with my potato bowl. Gets me the potato bowl and the mac and cheese bowl instead of just one or the other. She's like, I got both just so you know what you want. Fair enough, baby girl. I love you. You are amazing. Let's kiss. Mwah. 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 Is everyone jealous of my amazing relationship yet? Should be.
We're kissing.
You should be jealous of my amazing relationship, and if you're not, it's so sad for you.
Yeah, smoochy.
Smoochy, smoochy, baby girl. I love you so much. If anyone says that's wrong, I don't want to be right. I don't want them in my life. Get away from me. Yeah, well, don't tell me kissing my wife is wrong. I'll kill you. I'll kill you dead. I'll kiss my wife. What was I doing? All right, I was talking about what I did. Oh, I'm normal. That over a little bit. Grab my. Okay. So here's kiss my wife while killing you dead. That's hot. Anyway, I'm normal. I'm so normal. Let's start with this. We have We need to make. I wish it was a kid. Great. Okay, we're gonna make a combat screen. Okay, we're gonna make combat screen needs a couple things. The first thing it needs probably some sort of sprite layer, right? The sprite 2D. Okay, and we're gonna for now quick load. We're gonna here. It doesn't know. However, okay, so it is PG Forest 1. That'll work. Okay, boom. PG Forest 1. This is the size of a whole screen. Whoop-de-doo, baby girl.
Don't call them that. Don't do that.
That's my wife's title. She did not like that. A fucker now. Mountain Dew layer, I don't know, add caffeine. Do a region enabled.
0 and 2 0 or whatever. No. We're gonna do like oh no! What have I done to you? My boy. Get this up a bit. Very good. More than that. That about 4. Keep her simple. Do a height of 2 poundo. Closer to 5. Width is whatever the width is supposed to be of the screen, which I never fucking remember. Project settings. What's the width of my screen? 960 divided by 2 because I didn't know what I was doing yet and had to do a bunch of weird stuff, and now we're years into this and it's a big old technical burden to fix. 480. There we go. Hi, Solar. Feeling bonita. Solar's sad he was feeling bonita.
That wasn't.
Okay, man, I'm so good at words. Hey, sad he was feeling bonita. Okay, force being consumed by the void. Oh, Lottie. All right, hi, Solar. We're all kind of okay. So here we go. This is a lovely little battle window. All right, you go into battle. Blah 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 blah. Sake of argument, I'm gonna make a duplicate of this for my own purposes temporarily. Offset is off, and we're just gonna pop this. Okay, and this one will go underneath. Temp. Why is it temp? You'll see. We're going to go down here to ability, and we're going to modulate this boy to be dark. There we go. That is a battle window scene and a thing that's not the how fun for us. Okay, I don't think outline these. That'd be fun. So, drag this down 5. See a little bit of the actual environment behind there, and we make some sort of probably combat log would be valid, I guess. Or I could do it, okay. There's the decision to be made here. Do I go Dragon Quest style or do I go Earthbound style with it on top? I kind of like it more on top. This is pretty centered. That makes a level of sense. Dragon Quest tends to give you notices on the bottom of the screen. That's one thing. Like, window on the bottom or stuff popping up on top. It's just a difference of where it presents. I think Final Fantasy tends to lean towards top usually. Basically, what we'd be doing is have something pop up like, here's what the monster is casting. But who's so doing? So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna add a child node. I think this is the best way to do this. Rect. Reference rect, texture rect. Correct. Correct might be the way to go. Black. Do a black. Okay. Okay. Aspect ratio, H box, center, low. Child controls in it. So split, no. Margin, no. Roll, no. I think center is exactly what we. Okay, we're gonna put center container layout. Are going anchor. What?
Why aren't you expanding? Sizing. And. Okay. Color rect. Why aren't you expand? Why are you like this? Why do you hate me? Add child node. Topping? You're topping, Bird. Enjoy. Pick your partner. Bird is topping. Solar's okay with this. We did it. We broke him. Up left. Okay, so what am I? Enter top. Oh, okay. You're weird and I don't like you. This should fill. Why isn't this filling? I'm so confused. Why can't I fucking... Alright. Or 480. Fine. We're just gonna manually set this to... Doesn't feel like magic numbering my way. Okay, our color rect. In our label, color rect is not even visible. This sucks. Put the label out. Get rid of the color rect. It's not. About a panel container. Label in the panel container. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Getting somewhere. Our sizing. Supposed to stretch to fit. Container default. Why? How are you like this? Don't think so. Center can. We're doing some. I oh. Parent is the control. Difference. All out direction. Good. Shouldn't be. Why are you like this? I just put this by itself. What do we get? Right, if I set your transform to like fuck you. Position grow. Okay, 0, 0. Fine. Okay, if I expand you, you don't do anything. I want you to fill. Okay.
Right. Well, put label in center. That works. That does not. Farting? Fighting me so. Or normal. I can just do it. I didn't have to do any of that. On a label. Topping. Give it the default theme. Have to do anything I just did, or could I have gotten away with it here? A bird is topping. You're right, Bird. It's a lot to put on you. So, JRPG turn order. It's your husband's turn. All right. Please tell your ATB before it fills.
Hi, I'm kind of here. Sorry I missed you leaving, Solar. Wife passed out again. Okay. Wife needs anything. Huh? Oh. Baby girl, fainted there for a second, among other things. Help with a few things. I think she's okay for now. Do worry. Do. But hey. What did I miss? Laptop be dying. Odd. Yeah. Well, to be fair, they haven't been up a lot. But yeah, they're in the cave. Need people in here. Could be a bug. Not in a bug. Oh no. Oh, lots to catch up on. Oversaw. I'm just saying he passed out for a sec. Baby girl passes out. I go, I should. Sure, she's good. Okay, I'm coming. Bug. Playing with her little bug. Cat likes to play with her bug. Imagine I did a tactical roll, scooped her up, and put her gently to rest. No, also I just leaned her back in her chair instead of to the side so she wouldn't fall over onto the floor. Cat has a stuffed bug she likes to throw around. She's already ripped at least one arm off it. Picks it up with her mouth, flings it, chases it, repeat ad nauseum. Has a lovely old time playing catch with herself, basically. Yeah, Buzzbug. Not that bug. I think Kate would have issues. Oh. I have desktop audio on? I don't think I do. I think I listen to whatever the hell I want. I just whatever the hell I want. I'm trying to remember war. He's going crazy with it. He's having a lovely time. Oh my god, bye. Uber. Goober cat. Turn this down a bit, but there we go. Music for me. There. He is adorable. He also has little stuffed dinosaur nuggets. This is one of the things we need. Okay. Player information will be over here. On the left side,
That should work. Okay, so sake of argument, if I run this scene, I have not saved. That window on its own. Cool, awesome. Got a camera, it's wrong, but it's fine. Works for now. DB, okay. Infobot. All right, we need a little timer thing. Lighting. I should probably get rid of that one there. Seems kind of weird. The tits now. Oh, tits are out. This is wonderful news for everyone. If it's not wonderful news to you, why not? You want to fucking fight? Do you want to fight? Do you not appreciate what she's doing for us? What is the best way to do this for now? Child node. I'm gonna think what the smartest move. Sprite is probably what I'm gonna end up having. Are they letting blue-footed birds out? Would you rather they be in captivity?
Two-birdie, two-birdie, go. Two-birdie.
Two-butted goat. Two-butted goat. Canvas compressed. Oh, hey. Yes, new texture. Do gradient. Gradient's easy. Too far off from what I wanted anyway. Screen. Like this. Width, height. This. Like 16 by. That's actually fine. 32. 24? 4 is pretty good. Nice little like meter over here. Linear. I want this thing. There we go. Pew 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 pew. Why are lasers happening?
There's
Lasers.
me and they're on this.
The same wavelength.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
that's why we friends.
Your friends.
Yeah, we friends.
Oh my god, my wife made friends, guys.
I made friends.
I'm gonna cry. I'm so excited for you. Friends. That's amazing. Usually you say you have no friends.
You have no friends, but you have so many friends.
Yeah.
How does that work? Complicated. It's a yes or no question. Yes or no question. Time meter. Very simple. Not final asset, but it'll do for now, right? Well, I think K literally lives in town. I think K literally lives in town. Yes. Thought he was one of Liz's friends. Oh my god. My focus is waning way fast. Oh, because I thought I could be wrong. The Blight Town of America. Oh, we're pretty single story around here. Blight Town's rather vertical. I haven't actually played a Dark Souls. I did see a hot take today that Souls games should just be done because they'll never be better than Elden Ring. How with that attitude there? I need a placeholder. Where's a good placeholder? Right. Not those. Textures? Log. Shadow, skybox. Those are all decent. Lines are all very complicated. You like the big star, don't get me wrong. That's not a bad one. Light ball's too big. Star? Small star will do. At the scale. Ooh, I fucked up! Right. So I was wrong. He's not a lab knight. Still. Room pass. Wait. But where is he? I'm so confused. Right, whatever. Y'all do you. You know what? All do each other. Everyone do each other. Everyone be friends with friendifits. I ain't gonna stop you. I'm a slut. You live in my walls. Can you yell at Merlin when he tries to pee somewhere he shouldn't then? Because it's really fucking frustrating. No, that's fair. Be mad at me if I burnt out wanting to play games for a bit. Oh. So, you can walk through the process of what I'm thinking and doing here. It's a lot to parse at a time, and I'm getting tired of. This is our combat, right? This is our little dude. This is what we worked on script wise. All the gobbledygook. Okay, the combatant is going to, in combat, occupy this space. This is our combat with. Okay. Now this on the left is going to be the meter, the timer. Think like ATB bar, but everyone says if you play Grandia, something like that, time system. With the idea being that you try to get your turns in sequence, because different moves take different amount of time. Fine, not that hard to implement in itself. The star is a placeholder for like a little icon that scrolls up and down based on how close to your turn you are. At the top, it's your turn. Hooray!
Get to your turn. Do a thing. And wow, they're very big. Point being, this here is how I'm implementing the puzzle element of the game into the combat. Is we're gonna focus on trying to chain your guys together. And hello, Milo, can I fucking help you? I finish a thought. Is that allowed? You go to bed? Go to bed, Milo? Okay, come on, let's go to bed. Go to bed. I've been hesitant to do this part because it is very boring and hard to follow, kind of, and just a lot of various shit I need. What is this position? Okay then. It's like a half pig. Fun. Hi, Kevin. Welcome in. So it's a lot of individual components I'm trying to make work together, right? We have the info box. Straightforward. Someone casts a spell, someone does something. You need to track information, pops up here. Very traditional stuff. So and so takes X HP damage. You cast fire, they cast lick your face or whatever. So, fine. The most foundational part of this, fundamental, would be to put a couple combatants in, have them spawn their markers, and have this rotate through and have them spit out little turns once in a while. Basically, just to make sure the turn order works. Then we can focus on actually implementing moves, implementing the player. I'm very nervous about it because historically, this is the part where I trip up and bail. I'd rather not do here because I've put a lot of effort in it. Where I'm at. Call random bounty event. You're right. I haven't done much in a while. Oh. Well, I guess you have 5 seconds to claim bingo. I guess I'll join my bingo. I almost won bingo. That's really frustrating. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Think fast, bitch! You're supposed to actually claim your bingo, though, or you don't get the bingo. Ready, babe? Katie's moving over. Give me just a sec. I'm back. Yeah, when you get a bingo, you have to actually click bingo to claim the bingo. I'll announce it. Oh, if it says he won, then yeah. And loves Alphabet Soup. Play Yu-Gi. Seems like a very difficult game to play if you can't. Last I knew, those cards were fucking ridiculous. Could be wrong. Not exactly a big fan. Game. .3 font on some cards. Yikes. At that point, I think it just says you won, whatever. Fuck. Give up. Your card's a book. I want a new assignment. You know what I mean? Okay. I'm not going to give up yet. I am in a mood, but I'm not going to give up. Here we go. Yeah, we start with an impromptu AFK. Enjoy that. Did talk game design because I talked about my thing for a bit. Marked it. Kazzy right out the gate. Ready, open. Lots of coding by default. What do we do here? What's a think? Doing a think. I'm gonna think. My strong suit, please forgive. Here's where we got to start. Objects. Combat marker gonna exist as its own thing. This is a. Oh, it's a combatant. Not. Just put it in here as a generic, I guess. Combat marker. Fine. Sake of argument, we're going to open combat marker on its own. Should be nice and just a thing in the corner, and it is. Perfect. That's all it needs to be right now. Liz, you trying to score a bingo right at the gate or something? Okay. And delete this. Combat marker is deleted. This is going to be renamed combat window. That was incorrect. This capitalized. So many steps here. Okay. Combatant. When you are made, you are going to have a combat marker. Okay? Simple enough. Combat marker is in here on the combatant. We hit play. We should see that up in the corner all by itself. This is hitting all sorts of buttons. Don't worry about it. Yep, there's a little star over the guy's eyeball. You can kind of see it there. How cute. How adorable. Liz, are you okay, honey? You good? Do you oh, Talus is doing it too. There's something happening. There's something happening. Ow.
Y'all lost the game!
All lost the game, she said. As says you all lost the game.
Sorry this happened to you? Wowzers. So we have too many points is what I'm hearing. I believe there's an option I can put where you get to call a specific event for points, but don't quote me on that. I'm tempted to throw that in there. Just because some of you... What count as game over? Oh, you know what? Sure. It didn't matter. It got randomed anyway. Yep, she's being a full goob. I don't know what's up with her. Combat window. We need a script for the combat window. Let's save this to scripts. Wowzers. There's so much happening. They just keep calling random events. They spend points. 500. Yeah. I just started a new bingo, and they're like racing to see who gets it, I guess. And you know, for like 1,000, you can like open a vote and start fighting to have certain things picked through vote, right? Channel points let you buy things like this. No, they're just community participation. Think. Next person to cheer chooses an event to call. Liz won. So if you cheer, you get to pick one. And chaos, we got a 1-minute ad break. All right. Good grief. Just seeing how long it takes to get the chaos going or someone to win, I guess.
Can you believe this the box?
Liz wind. Okay. And we're coding. Is that even on the list? I don't even know where the list is at. Good grief, you guys. Kay is sobbing. Kay is broken. Cat interruption, absolutely. Good lord. An unprompted sing song, if Kaz does it, I'm going to say yes. And the bingo round's about to end in 5 seconds. You guys are... I'm still trying to see if I've got everything. All right. 5, 4, 3, think fast, 2, 1, and 0. I don't think Kay thought fast. They're fighting over bingos, I think. Kay was busy sassing, and he ended up missing when I said everyone has a chance. I said think fast, and he didn't catch the thing to claim his bingo. I even paused for a second. All right, there you go. New game. Have fun, I guess, you weirdos. Liz can throw shit. I might catch it. I might not. I feel like I just heard something. Yep. Hi. Thank you. How many of those were you wearing today? I didn't want to block, though. I wanted to catch high. I'm catching undergarments over here. Okay, combat window. About it. Time meter. Info box. No, I don't want that. I want the... I do want that. Shit. It's not playing on Twitch. I know neither of y'all got Tekken. I swear on whatever amphibious god that is above, I'll get my lick back. I swear it. I have friendship is no. I have what's it called? Fuck. The holy shit. Them's fighting herds. I have that one. I don't have a fight stick. I've got a gamepad, and I've got a keyboard and mouse, and I've got a wiener, and I play with my wiener. I've never played it though. I'll give you some context. I have played through the first two. Well, I never finished the second one. I got to the final boss and gave up on easy mode. That bad at it. There's your first context. I've played through the first two story modes of BlazBlue. The first two games, all of their story mode to the endings. And I can easily lose BlazBlue to your average toddler who's picked it up for the first time. I'm really bad at fighting. You want a peener? All right. Well, just one for yourself or to play with. All of them. You want all of the peeners. Again, for yourself or to play with. Like, do you want to be surrounded by peeners, or do you want to surround someone with your peeners? These are two very different outcomes. That's not answering my question. Both? You want a tentacle hentai, but it's just peenors on peenors. All right. No, scary. A big ol' shadoodly. A big ol' shadoodly, huh? Dad says I should play a game. Does anyone want to see me play a game? Should I just play a game for a bit? Oh boy. Probably just kill the bingo at that point. She'll take it. She doesn't want it. I mean, I do have some damning messages I could send forward or whatever, but I won't. We got Monster Hunter Stories. We got Gravity Circuit. We got Sonic Frontier. I could play some Hedgehog. I haven't played some Hedgehog in a hot second. Might reset the stream if I do that though. I don't know. Can you split a VOD?
No.
No? I know I can leave a marker. Oh. Well, I didn't find splitting VOD, but I did find VOD track guide for OBS. It's built in, so there's that. Grats. We might be able to have music in the future without being a problem, because exact thing. Yeah. Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do then. I think my face just broke. Oh no, I'm good. Hi. Hello. Hey, check it out. Hi, gorgeous. Hey, gorgeous. How you doing, gorgeous? Pretty good, gorgeous. You want a kiss? Too bad. It's impossible. Okay, whatever. I'm gonna go cave for a second. Hi, welcome to the cave. I'll be right back. We're gonna play a game. I might just do Frontiers. I've been wanting to. Is that a bad plan? What do you think, baby? Play some Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog. I've been in the mood. Let's Sonic some Hedgehog. And I'll break down what I need to do for this combat system, and we'll either do that next time or have it ready to show off. I don't know. We'll see. It's been like a special interest thought lately, but also it's so much I am not focused. I will be right back then.
Sploosh, we're gonna kill the bingo. Everyone have a nice day. Hell yeah. I'll hedge on your hug. Okay. Shut up, Sarah. Sploosh.